Assalamu alaikum and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Atiqa Ali, and on behalf of the Management Association of Pakistan, I welcome you all to our very first MAP Talk. This initiative marks the beginning of a new platform for knowledge sharing and meaningful dialogue, and we are delighted to have you with us as part of this start. We will start today's session with a recitation of the Holy Quran.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الرحمن علم القرآن خلق الإنسان علمه البيان الشمس والقمر بحسبان والنجم والشجر يسجدان والسماء رفعها ووضع الميزان ألا تطغوا في الميزان وأقيموا الوزن بالقسط ولا تخسروا الميزان والأرض وضعها للأنام فيها فاكهة والنخل ذات الأكمام والحب ذو العصف والريحان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان
Jazakallah. An announcement for our guests today who are not members of MAP yet. We have collected your contact details from your visiting cards. We will be reaching out shortly to share the membership form, and we would truly love to have you join our community and become members of MAP. So without taking much of your time, now I would like to invite Mr. Talib Karim, President of IOBM and former President of MAP, to kindly take over as the host for today's session.
Assalamu alaikum and good evening. So when the program was given to me, I asked Ali that what should the host do? So one thing is that I can host the tea and coffee or the high tea. Of course, MAP will pay for it, not me. The other is just to thank all the participants who are here. And as the immediate past president of MAP, and I think had been in the management committee for almost 10 years. So there's always that link between me and MAP, and I think that will stay for a long time to come. So whenever I'm invited by MAP, it's always a pleasure to be part of the event. So I think once this flyer was circulated, I think things have changed since yesterday. But unfortunately, it's not a permanent change. I think there are many ifs and buts on what will happen in the next 2 weeks. I think we'll find out more on Friday if that meeting takes place on Friday. So I think the topic is still very relevant. First of all, I think we have to also realize that the ceasefire of 2 weeks does not mean that things will change overnight. I think whatever the supply chain is, whatever the disruption is, I think that will stay for a period of time, even if things do get settled. So before I introduce the panel, so there are, as I've said, there are structural risks across trade, finance, and supply chain. And I think we need to sit down today and discuss how to navigate this evolving and uncertain environment that we are facing and will face in the future. So it's no longer just a crisis discussion, but it's also about navigating uncertainty in a transitioning environment. So what are some of the questions that can be discussed or maybe will be discussed? That what does this temporary stabilization actually mean for decision making? Will insurance normalize or remain volatile? How will banks treat LCs in the short term? How will logistics disruptions persist? And when, if at all, do costs stabilize? I think that is very important for us. Although there are some rumors that maybe there will be revision of prices tonight. I'm not sure whether it's the petrol or diesel, but there is a talk that maybe there'll be an announcement regarding the prices. We have a very distinguished panel, a very dear senior colleague and friend, Mr. 𝐕𝐢𝐝, who will be the lead expert and moderator for today's panel. Of course, all of us know him very well. He's the Honorary Consul General of New Zealand and strategic insurance veteran, and also former president of MAP. And he's also the longest serving Honorary Consul General ever, at least maybe around the world. I don't think any Consul General has served for so long as Mr. 𝐕𝐢𝐝. And also, I think he's also the record holder, a Pakistani record holder, that he has traveled the most countries in the world. I think 160 plus, 142. So I think we are far behind him. Then we have Mr. Asfar Arshad. He's MD and CEO, Jubilee General Insurance. So the insurance part, of course, will be covered by him. And then we have Syed Tariq Hassan, who's the Chief Risk Officer of Mizan Bank. And as we talked about LCs and how the bank will play the role in this very volatile type of disruption, how the banks, what is their perception in all this. So Mr. 𝐕𝐢𝐝, I'll invite you first to take the seat as there's the lead expert and moderator. I will then invite Mr. Asfar Arshad to please join us. And then Syed Tariq Hassan to please join the panel. So over to you, Mr. 𝐕𝐢𝐝. I think my next job would be to stop you on time. So I think our end time is what, 6:30? 6:30. So we will hopefully finish by 6:30. Thank you. Over to you, Mr. 𝐕𝐝.
Oh, hello. Hello.
Sir, thank you very much. Thank you, sir. ये टाइटल दे दिया अली हसन साहब ने नया मुझे आज, स्ट्रैटेजिक वेटरन इंश्योरर. Thank you. So 142 countries, still a lot to go. UN has got 193. And there are 215 altogether which are not recognized, some of them. So still a long way to go. This war disrupted my travel. I was planning to go to uh, Pacific countries, which are 12, close to Australia and New Zealand. And I booked, and now I'm waiting to reschedule because I have paid to the airlines. No insurance cover for that. Ali Hassan Saab, executive director, when he approached me and he says, will I be interested in a seminar on fallout of war and the economic implications. So I told him कि ये तो अभी देर से कर लीजिए, पहले war risk के ऊपर बात करते हैं. So thank you for accepting my suggestion. There are 3 lessons that I have learned on war risk. So first, when I was the executive director of Pakistan Insurance Corporation, I managed in 1984, I still managed 1971 war risk claims, which were going on. When the war takes place, then the normal insurances are excluded and government comes up and provides a war insurance. But then all the insureds pay the levy, and that's where the government collects the money. And out of that, they disbursed. If there's a shortfall, then the GOP funds. But both wars, 65 and 71, government did not have to fund because the industry, the players, had to contribute, and they had enough to pay. Same with 1971 war. The second experience that I had was to do with political risk insurance. And when war risks ends or excluded, political risks come into play. But political risk otherwise is something which companies take. When I did my MBA, the new products, one of the theses that I wrote was on political risk insurance. And AIG was the first one to introduce. And I wrote that business, first one. It was an American company operating in Russia, ball bearing company. And I wrote that business for $5 million and charged a premium of about $25,000. And after 2 weeks, there was a claim. The company was nationalized in Russia. But that gave really a surge in the political risk insurance business. And AIG paid the claim quickly, and as a result, we got 250 clients in fortnight. They were all interested in political risk insurance. So this business that we are talking about after the war or during the war will give, to answer Talib Saab's question, whether this will continue, there will be a surge in allied businesses, which is a political risk insurance, which means whatever is excluded from war, normal traditional war insurance policies will come into play, like supply chain, cyber, other insurances will come into war risk. One area where I thought I will ask also my colleague here, Asfar Saab, is that I was just thinking that what is not covered at this stage. And yesterday when I heard from Finance Minister that our remittances have not yet come down, overseas remittances, then one thing which will come surely in due course by the developing countries is to seek the insurance, political reinsurance for inward remittances. That's a new thing, which it has occurred to me, and I will test with a couple of underwriters to find out whether they have the appetite of doing that or not, because insurance is all about pricing. If you have a right price, you get it. So this is the key for this business. The other area where that I recall is the shipping side of it. When I was the executive director in Pakistan Reinsurance Company, Nawab Shah was the vessel of PNSC. At the moment, we have Sargodha and Karachi and others. Nawab Shah was insured at that time for about $3.7 million. So when I joined, they were continuing with this type of insurance. So I said that, look, I will get the valuation done, and then we will decide and give you an offer. So Nawab Shah was worth $12 million. So I said to the executive director of PNSC that you are going to get 1/3 max of the claim if there is a total loss. And I said, I'm going to give you a letter on that. He says, nobody has done that in the past. I said, well, I'm the professional insurer, so I will do that. And you go to your board of directors and find out whether you want this cover at 12 million. Otherwise, we will apply under insurance. Luckily, the board of directors agreed. And they bought the cover for Nawab Shah and others at the market price. After about 3 months, Nawab Shah was stuck in Singapore. And this executive director thanked me by sending a cake at my house that you saved me for the replacement value. So here we are talking of currently the Greek vessels running around $25 million, small ones, but the big vessels have a value, price tag of about $200 million. So you can imagine the premium which runs, which was prior to the war, was running around 0.25, and it surged to 1%, and some underwriters even charge 3%. And when you go with these vessels, you're not just talking of vessel itself. There is a crew, there is a delayed insurance, there is a comprehensive insurance, and other sides of it. We have not yet covered the delayed, which we call it consequential loss insurance. If there is a shipment is delayed or diesel is not coming through on time, these insurances are not really considered. Very expensive, so not many people buy it. But 329 vessels in the month of end of March and April were operating in Hormuz, 329 vessels. And the statutory liability cover of those 329 vessels was $200 billion. So US development corporation came into play and gave a funding of about $40 billion. Initially, they gave 20. Later, they gave 40. But my colleague here, Asfar, is going to tell you more about it, whether this is being availed or not. But none of the players, big players like Munich Re, Swiss Re, Hanover Re, or SCOR, which I represent, they write this kind of a business. They don't have that capacity because insurance is backed by reinsurance, and then reinsurance is backed by retrocession. So you go on and multiply, and not much capacity is available. That's where the government comes into play, and they put sovereign guarantee or funding, whatever. So the Lloyd's is the one which syndicates, some of these syndicates they operate, and the capacity is there. Obviously, the pricing matters. So some of these Greek vessels, which tend to take the risk, they paid 3 times the salary to the staff, and they ran some with very low insurance cost. They took the chance and they passed through. But this is a big, big risk which one needs to take. Now, we are not talking of oil only here, because there are, cargo passing through the Hormuz. Fertilizer is the main, and other areas where we come into play. So it has a domino effect. Insurance cost on your pricing, on your supply chain, on your, inflationary impacts and others. So it's a big business for insurance industry, but at the end of the day, it's a big loss. Chubb, US operator, was in the play for this business, and backed by AIG and others who funded. But again, I inquired from Asfar, and he said that not many have taken this up. There's one more dimension to this insurance, which I will cover, Talib sir, a bit later. But these are some of my opening remarks on this for this seminar. Javed sir, welcome, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Mirza. So first of all, let me start off by saying, it's a bit of a daunting task when you're asked to speak about insurance in the presence of Mr. Moin Futa. And it's obviously very challenging. So the first invite that I got, I tried to get out of it, but then I got a call that Moin Saab himself has ordered that I be part of this. So thank you, sir, for the confidence. Yeah. So these, in terms of the current conflict and the impact that it has on our economy and our country, in terms of insurance, the direct impact is obviously on the marine portion, because that is one area where although they say 20% of the oil transits through this region, the Gulf, the Gulf of Aden and the Persian Gulf and the Red Sea. But as far as Pakistan is concerned, I think more than 80% of our energy needs flow through this region. So a lot of businesses obviously rely on this. And what we saw was in the initial days of the conflict, right as soon as the conflict started, as most underwriters do, whenever you have a war declared in any given region, the war cover is revoked, right? So what this means is effectively those vessels or those voyages which are already there in place, they will be covered to the extent of 7 days or 14 days. But any new voyage or any new shipment that happens, they will then be priced separately. So the initial terms that obviously the market got was the pricing, which is in the range of 0.02 or 0.03%, that got hiked to around, say, 0.1% if it was from the Red Sea, and 0.4% if it was from the Persian Gulf, especially if this was passing through the Hormuz. Those were the initial dates. But in terms of the price shock for the Pakistani businesses, going from 0.03 or 0.05 to 0.4, that's more of a 8 times, increase. So that has a knock-on effect on it. But that was a very small impact in terms of the overall value of the cargo. The main actually impact came from the, as Moin Saab also already mentioned, was the insurance of the vessel. There, the premiums increased by more than 4-5 times. So generally, an average vessel before this war risk would be paying a premium of $215,000. That got ramped up to $1 million, and subsequently to $2 million, which now the IRC is also demanding. And so when you look at the knock-on effect of those, obviously the entire business community, the exporters as well as the importers, started having a very, very major impact of this. And unfortunately, the Pakistani insurance industries, in terms of size, do not insure the vessels themselves. We do insure the cargo, but the vessels are controlled by the P&I Club and the Lloyd syndicates, and there obviously the premiums. And these were the initial days. Subsequently, I think when this conflict started, getting more severe, these rates actually went up to points from 0.04, it went up to 5%, 6% in certain cases, and this was for Pakistani flag vessels. For non-Pakistani flagged vessels, this rate actually went up to 15% for the value of the cargo. Just imagine, what sort of risk they would be facing. So hopefully now we should start seeing that coming back, normalizing slightly. But I don't think, as was said previously, it will take some time for this situation to normalize. Because as things stand currently, the protocol is if a vessel has to pass through the Hormuz, it has to take an approval from IGRC. When IGRC approves that vessel, then that vessel is allowed to pass. So we still are waiting for the details to come out, but from the initial details that we have seen from the 15 points and the 10 points that have been talked about, I think there will be some level of control which Iran and Oman are going to continue to exercise over this Persian Gulf. It's not going to be business as usual. So, I mean, we were discussing this in our company this morning as well. So our assessment is, just like COVID changed the world, so we say pre-COVID and post-COVID, I think this event is going to change the world in a lot of ways that we can begin to imagine. So we will be, I think, in the next months and years to come, we will be saying things like pre the Middle East conflict and post-Middle conflict. So this is no longer a logistic issue. It's more of a existential issues. And from the business perspective, and this is what we are doing is I think businesses, I think the question that we will be asking ourselves is, it's not how soon this conflict is going to end or the time duration. It's basically how resilient we are or what we need to do to build this sort of resilience to ensure that these events, when they happen in future, we are able to absorb that shock and make sure that our business basically continues, whether it's some more diversification, whether it's some of resourcing, because we feel that although Pakistan currently is one of those countries which is least impacted by this being because of the things that are happening, and hopefully will not be that expected. But I don't think we are going to go back to business as usual in the near future. There is going to be this conflict is going to take a toll. And for one thing that has actually come out, and I was attending one of these seminars by Swissre, and they were actually discussing the impact of this. And one of the moderators, one of the panelists there said one thing which has somehow stuck with me. He said that the major change that has happened now is the rule of law is no longer guaranteed. Previously, there were certain rules and regulations that the world would abide by, and countries like ours, smaller countries, or mid-sized countries and companies could rely on certain rules and regulations. But now what we'll start to see is, might will actually dictate what happens. So the rights and the wrongs, the UNs and the International Court of Justice, I think it's going to be a total different era that we are going to be stepping into. And I think businesses and countries need to start thinking on those lines and needs to preparing themselves, creating the resilience that is needed to come up with any eventuality. So we shouldn't see this as an event that is going to pass. Even if this ceasefire holds and everything back comes to normal, I think we need to start seeing how to prepare ourselves for the next event, because the next event is going to happen. And it's going to be more destructive than, unfortunately, this event. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I think both the gentlemen covered by and large the war risk premium issue in quite detail. From the banker side, of course, I think we are even more risk averse than the insurance guys. So at the moment we got to know that then the war risk war risk cover is not available, the first reaction was like, okay, no more LCs. So the banks, I think most of the banks were just stopped, opening new LCs basically. And we were even more worried about the ones that we have already established. Fortunately, and later we got that clarification that the things that already established and the cargo that's already in the high seas, basically those will be covered. However, for the new LCs, the war risk premium is not available. So obviously we got in discussion with our clients, and at this point in time, we, as I can say of my own bank, but I'm sure other banks will be doing the same thing, that we are very selective in establishing new LCs, and we are also taking warranties or guarantees from our own customer that in just in case, in the absence of war risk premium, if something happens, who is going to take that run basically. We being Islamic bank, we deal in when you open LCs, the goods, the cargo is usually come in our own name. Basically, we hold ownership of those cargo. So the situation is like even more critical for us compared to a typical conventional bank. So at this point of time, we are reluctant to get into any any those transactions where we have to take that inventory risk. So I think in all, basically the bottom line is this event that happened is going to affect the entire business community and the entire industrial base of Pakistan, and it will increase the cost of business. Because obviously, we'll force them to take the water premium at whatever cost available if they really want to establish the LCs. So the bottom line is, I think it increases the cost of doing business for everyone around.
Thank you very much. So I'm getting into a role of moderator now, and I'm going to make a comment, and then I will ask questions from my two colleagues. But one area that I wanted to cover is not just the shipping. When I read the news that a family of 4 plus a dog has taken a flight out of Dubai to Oman, Muscat, and they paid roughly about $200,000 because the flights were chalked at all the airports in Dubai. So as an insurance person, I wanted to know that who wrote that business. And paying $200,000 for this kind of a journey of about 70 minutes max, ground to ground. So this business was written by one of the Lloyd's syndicate, and the premium charge for that was $50,000 just for that business. So imagine that private jets for a short journey were charging $50,000. The premium for, say, 737 aircraft went from $75,000 to $150,000 for a round trip. Emirates is the only airline in the region was able to get a cheapest cover because of their fleet size and because of their long-term insurances. So the Emirates CEO is the New Zealander. So with my New Zealand connection, I inquired, and Emirates was able to get a cover by paying a premium per week of $100,000. But that's the cheapest, whereas others were able to get for that much. Now, Emirates liability cover for the fleet, peak liability cover is $2 billion. And you can imagine that the 380 in Emirates, they are now almost 10 years old 380s. It started with $450 million. But at the moment, Emirates' best 380 is $70 million. So with that, obviously the premium they were able to get is very attractive. Qatar the same, Etihad slightly expensive, but all the European carriers, they had huge issues with the premium cost because of their fleet size and the other liability cover that they carry with the passenger. So they suspended the flights, whereas Emirates, Etihad, and Qatar, they operated. I doubt Fly Dubai continued with many flights because there were 20,000 cancellations of flights. So PIA suffered very badly. PIA, I believe, is not operating at the moment, very limited. Fuel cost is, jet fuel cost is one, which Mr. Arif Habib, the new lead owner of the group, mentioned that it's jet fuel cost is unsustainable for that point of view, and insurance obviously is something. So this is the area that many people do not really inquire as to what's happening. The fuel surcharge is being added now per kilometer in most of the airlines. So you will find that the price of the fare price is going to go up, and it's not going to come down so easily. Whatever goes up doesn't come down so easily. But then airlines have to recover their losses. Luckily, Emirates had the best year in the history in 2025, so they are going to have the worst year in 2026. My question, Asfar Saab, to you is, You know, India, US obviously raised their guarantee from $20 billion to $40 billion. So whether the vessels that I mentioned, were they able to get the cover from those pledged guarantees by the US? India came forward and gave a guarantee, sovereign guarantee of $1.5 billion. And Indian insurance industry pooled together the guarantees worth of $300 million for their vessels. But I doubt if our people came into the play to do this, because Pakistani vessels were flying with their flags high and all sorts of videos that we saw. But has IAP or any insurance approached the government for a sovereign guarantee or no?
So yes, I think there was a discussion that was happening, we saw, between the IAP and the Ministry of Commerce and the Ministry of Finance in terms of how we can reduce the cost to our Pakistani exporters. And the industry came together, and we offered that, you know, a certain capacity can be pooled in from all the industry that are combining. And then we asked the government, and this was actually last week as well, because most of the reinsurances that we buy, we procure from the Pakistan, is out of London and Lloyd's basically. There the premium rates are very high. So we did ask the government if they can, you know, help us and request the Chinese reinsurers, because they're one of the second largest market in the world. But normally they don't offer the capacities for risks which do not have China's interest involved. So I think some discussions started to happen there as well, where Chinese reinsurers, and by the way, Chinese, of the top 10 reinsurers of the world, the top four are basically Chinese, the PICC, the Ping An, and CIPC. So there was discussion there, but hopefully now that will not need to happen. But as you mentioned, yes, this sovereign guarantee was generated by the US. Initial 20 million CHAP came in and another came. But I think this terms and conditions of those sovereign guarantee was so tough that I think the information that we have, that was not taken up at all. And the conditions that, you know, even the Lloyd's syndicate put up was, I think Pakistan was one of the exceptions. You know, if you had a Pakistani flag and your vessel had not called on some of the European ports or the US port, you were most likely to get the lowest pricing in the premium rate. But if any vessel had any flag of any European country, or it had called on any of European ports, that attracted a much higher risk. So hopefully that condition will if this ceasefire holds, I think that should go down. But in general, I think as the dust settles down, I think the insurance industry and the reinsurance industry will find out that there are a lot of losses that have accumulated. You know, we all know about 16, 17 vessels that have been impacted. So that's a direct consequence there. Moin Saab mentioned the flight cancellations. There are quite a few, people that have travel insurance in place. So I think that will be an issue. A lot of gas fields have been, impacted in Qatar, in Saudi Arab. I think recently we saw Jebel experience a loss. Bahrain, I think. So I think once the dust settles, I think those losses will come in. A lot of people, we're not talking about that, but during this period, there were supposed to be 2 Formula 1 races in Bahrain and Saudi Arabia. They have been cancelled, and I'm sure there will be a substantial insurance bill that will come from the event cancellation cover that I'm sure these the F1 organizers must have to purchase. So I think the insurance industries, I believe, over the next couple of weeks, as the dust settles down, will try to assess the losses that the industry have to pay, the war risk as well, and then we are expecting some repricing to happen on a number of areas. But one thing that you mentioned, and this is frankly very, 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 I don't think anyone has thought about this, the remittance cover that we got. Yes, this is a risk, and for a lot of countries, not only Pakistan, so a lot of subcontinental countries, I mean, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Pakistan, a lot of Far Eastern countries, I mean, their reliance on remittance as a percentage of GDP is quite substantial. and the movement there from such events can have an impact. And this basically is a sovereign risk. So I think someone in the government at some point in time may want to think, and yes, while there's risk, there's obviously a financial protection cover that is available. So something not has been talked of, but I think something that countries may want to have a look at and see if a financial solution is available for this volatility there.
So, question to our friend from the Mizan Bank. I haven't really seen any press conference, any news coming out of Bank Daulat Pakistan about this war risk implications. Talib Sahab in his opening remarks mentioned about the letter of credit and other, impact on the industry, financial industry as a result of this. Obviously, the price escalation and other areas are there. Do you have any thoughts from the banking association as well as from the State Bank of Pakistan on this?
Right. So, I think I won't be able to comment on the state bank thing, but on an overall basis, obviously, the entire thing has impacted and it has disrupted the supply chain, not only because the war risk issues and things like that, but I think the very important issue in our country is the availability of foreign exchange to fund all those LCs. Basically, I think that is a much bigger issue in hand, both for State Bank of Pakistan and the commercial banks. So I think both State Bank and commercial banks are quite focused on this particular aspect. Then how can we manage our FX flows? As we were talking, as you just mentioned, the remittance thing basically. So yes, remittances are strong in Pakistan. They have grown really well in the last few years. But one thing which is slightly, I would say, off the mark is our reliance on remittances is increasing a bit too much, basically. So I think for our FX requirements, we are now more looking towards remittances than exports, which should have been the case, basically. So at this point of time, I think the managing of FX flows is the most critical element. Like most of us know that we were supposed to pay $1 billion euro bond. As of today, I think we have made that payment, and we have also to return $3.5 billion to UAE during this month, which is going to put a lot of pressure on our FX reserves. Obviously, there is no way to recoup that or get those $3.5 billion from any other source. So most probably we'll have to dig into the FX reserves we have built over the last year or so. But these things will put pressure on our exchange rate and availability of dollars. So in short to medium term, I think the LC business is going to be affected because of our inability to provide the relevant, the required FX to those funding those LCs, basically. So I think this is at the moment.
Thank you. So, you very rightly mentioned about this UAE business and paying back $3 billion. So I would take this into the political risk insurance. Though we don't have it, but obviously this is something which came in, and it was a big surprise. I don't know whether Talib Sahab would like to comment on this.
I think it should not be taken as a surprise because I think we had that money for the last 8 years, I guess. So I think there need to be a better planning. But I think my advice would be that we should, the peace, the Islamabad Accord that we are going to be having, at least we should take a commission of $10 billion from different countries to resolve some of our FX issues. I don't know whether that can happen or not, but I think Pakistan has played a great role in settling this. But I think, yes, I agree that I think we are going to have some major issues. And I think there's a rumor that maybe rupee will depreciate further because now State Bank is going to collect or buy dollars from the open market very soon just to build up the reserves.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to comment on the insurance side quickly, and then one additional comment, and then we have another, say, half an hour or 25 minutes for Q&A. So as Asfar very rightly mentioned about insurance pricing, obviously those claims which are excluded, that's fine, but those which were covered. Apart from the insurance experts who were busy, the most busy community was legal community. And they were all analyzing the insurance policies to evaluate exclusions. And some of the covers which you rightly mentioned about the cancellation of the events in UAE and others, they were looking at those policies which are issued, and somehow or the other, some of these policies did not have war risk exclusion. Nobody thought about it. So obviously those claims will come through. But others of war risk itself, yes, claims will come through, and we will know eventually as to how much the premium was collected and how many claims were. This data will be made available because there are research institutes who are also busy in gathering this information. So you will find that. But as a result of that, repricing will take place. Now, when I was in Pakistan Insurance Corporation, we had an inward insurance, means reinsurance. When I say retrocession, so you reinsure and you have treaties and you get more business. So I had one cover and I was looking at the claims, and somebody wise in PRCL did not look at it. And there was a fight of 𝐬𝐻𝐿𝐴 𝐾𝐯 got cancelled. And that was insured and reinsured. So I saw about $32,000 worth of claim coming into PRCL for that fight which was cancelled in London of 𝐬𝐻𝐿𝐴 𝐾𝐯. That was late 𝐬𝐻𝐿𝐴 𝐾𝐯. That was insured. So these businesses are generally insured, but now people are going to be very wise in looking at the exclusions and to make sure that, you know, if they want a cover, they should really ask for it at that point when there is no war. And you get an extension of those covers if you want by paying additional premium, because the underwriters is going to make money for a number of years if the war does not take place. But at the end of the day, when you go and you buy a cover during the war, obviously it's very high stake that we are covered. The two benefits that Pakistan is going to get, in my view, now obviously your Q&A will come, but we all know that India was not favorite for Iran during this crisis. So Pakistan will have a good trading partner in Iran. Pakistan, if the sanctions are lifted, will be beneficiary for the gas pipeline, which is at the doorstep at the moment in Balochistan. And as soon as the tap gets open, we get the gas. There's a guy who says that, you know, you allow me and I will sell the petrol throughout Pakistan for 200 rupees a litre. But then the pipeline could come through and we get the official rate, so we don't have to really go through the Strait of Hormuz. But these are all, you know, $64 million question after 2 weeks. Whether we will be able to get anything or not, you never know. The next tweet, which I will read it before you, of President Trump, which could possibly come tomorrow morning, which I've drafted for the conclusion. But now we are going to do a Q&A session. So please be specific to your Q, and the panelists will do justice to your question.
Yes. So just before you get the question, sir, just one thing with regards to Iran. Another area is the reconstruction. You know, there's a lot of reconstruction will need to happen in Iran. And if Pakistan really plays their card well, I think there's an opportunity there for our businesses.
Thank you very much. This is Farid Alam. But I had a few questions, very simple ones, but I'll try to pick up one of the things that my friends here did really take up. One was this UAE payment of 3.5 billion. And I think we all are privy to this 𝐒𝐶 deal. I think if we do our arithmetic correctly, so this deal, we UAE owe them, UAE owe us about $200 million, not we owe, because $800 million is payable by them to Pakistan in the privatization of 𝐒𝐶 and private PTCL. And if I just do simple mathematics, 1 plus I raised to power n, it makes 3.7 billion rupees with simple compounding. So if we negotiate it well, and we should, and now that we in Pakistan are considered good negotiators, I don't think we have to pay anything at all to the UAE. My number two question is, because I am not an insurance guy, it just looked at me from 𝐕𝐢𝐝𝐻 Bhai's talk that this war thing, if I am to import cargo as an industrialist, is it voyage based or time period based? And do we normally have a cover of war? And my last question is, whatever we have witnessed in the last 1 month or so, has it really invoked this force majeure clauses, or if somebody had a cover of war, it will still be payable by the insurance company?
So from the insurance perspective, I can try to answer that. So generally, marine cargo covers are voyage based. So they cover voyage from one location to the other. And normally, in the normal course of transit, it can take 40 days, 50 days, 90 days. So normally, it's not time-bound cover. It's basically voyage-based cover. So, and marine is one of those class of insurance where generally war is built into the cover, right? So generally, for property and other classes, you have to buy a cover, a specialized line of cover. But marine, because you are dealing with two different countries normally, two different financial institutions, two different banks, so war is automatically built into the cover. So what happens is, normally you have the war cover is part of your policy. But once a war starts and is declared a war, then that cover stops for new voyages or new shipments to that region. So if you have an already ongoing voyage or shipment, that will be covered. So a insurance company or insurance company will not be able to invoke force majeure just because a war has been declared. But for any new cover that you need, you will need to pay some additional surcharge, which obviously, even in this situation, whilst the war cover was revoked or notice of cancellation were issued, but it wasn't as if the cover was not available. The cover was available, but the price of that cover actually gradually started increasing, which made businesses obviously reconsider the situation. So I don't know whether I've answered your question. It's a voyage-based cover. The cover is available. Companies cannot declare force majeure after an event has happened. What they can do is reprice the cover after the event for new voyages that initiate after the given event.
𝐀𝐏 sir. Hanif sir.
I'm Hanif Idris. My question is that with these events, the credibility of Dubai as a safe haven has gone down. So what would be the impact on Pakistan of credibility of UAE going down, because a lot of money is parked in the properties in UAE? So would that offset the remittance issues if we are discussing here? And second thing is that the property prices will go down. So what will the impact on this property class insurance? The premiums should go down then.
Property,
Yeah, you will.
कितने रखे हैं फ्लैट सर?
It's a गरीब आदमी हूँ.
अच्छा, the Iranians had the property, and this rumor went around that UAE has cancelled the visas and properties were confiscated, and then later on the clarification came. So stakes are high for UAE, and they can't really do that to the owners of the property, because at the moment they do that, they will have a backlash. Obviously, the prices have come down and there is a distress sale. So you find that there's a demand and supply, And last I checked also to see myself also as to what's happening in this area. And that initially for 2 weeks, the people were worried about their MOUs which were signed before the war. And these were to be executed. And obviously the buyer, if he has given token money or whatever, he will say, thank you very much, I'm not interested, keep my money. So those deals could not materialize at that point. So you're not talking about the new deals in UAE or otherwise, but this is something was of interest to me. So prices, obviously, I mean, UAE has suffered. वो बड़ी ख्वाहिश थी ना कि हम हर चीज़ के अंदर नंबर 1 हैं, तो अब जो है वो भुगतेंगे. अब ये दिस न्यूज़ ऑफ पाकिस्तान विच यू आर टॉकिंग अबाउट प्रॉपर्टी, एंड आई सपोज यू पिक्ड इट अप फ्रॉम मीडिया ऑल्सो, ये तो पुरानी खबर थी जो कि वीडियो में जियो ने दोबारा चला दी कि सारी लीक्स हो गई हैं, और दिस वाज द ओल्ड स्टोरी. नथिंग हैज़ बीन लीक्ड recently, or all these properties are there, and most of the people who were named in this video of this news of GeoTV, they are all mostly declared properties of big wigs. Others who bought it, but हमारे यहाँ तो problem, you all know that that Mifta Ismail confessed that it was a wrong decision of the GOP to have imposed 1% tax on offshore properties and offshore assets, because that shaken the confidence. So if today we say that, a lot of money is there in UAE and people are selling or taking out their investment out of UAE, then where will they take? So I posted this in a group, and some people said that this is going to Singapore and elsewhere. They will comply with the KYC. Pakistan में भी KYC तो है, लेकिन पैसा यहाँ नहीं आएगा, because we are not consistent in our policies. आपने जो है वो दिया, एमनेस्टी दी, और इसके बाद जो है आपने हिट कर दिया 1% लोगों के ऊपर. So if you paid 4% of your property at that time value to make it whiten, and now you are liable to pay 1% every year, though the case is in the Supreme Court, तो ये पाकिस्तानी प्रॉपर्टी ओनर्स तो जो है वो नेचुरली जिन्होंने ली हुई है, डिक्लेयर किया हुआ है, नए लोग तो नहीं जाएंगे एमनेस्टी के अंदर. बट दिस इज गोइंग टू टेक टाइम. सॉरी, दिस डाइवर्स्ड. यू गॉट $64 million question into hit here in this area. I was not expecting this question. जावेद साहब, कोई सवाल है आपका? यस सर.
थैंक यू. तारिक साहब से सवाल है. We're talking about remittance, and Pakistan has of course become increasingly reliant on remittances. So with all this situation in Gulf and our relationship with UAE, और हमारी remittance का most majority bulk जो था वो गल्फ से ही आता था. So आपके ख्याल में कितना इम्पैक्ट आएगा पाकिस्तान पे इसका? हमारी रेमिटेंस पे अच्छा खासा इम्पैक्ट आना चाहिए.
Absolutely. I think impact तो काफ़ी आएगा. I think Gulf countries, UAE, Saudi being the largest, UAE second, और पाकिस्तान मिलाकर, I think in combined, I think this area contributes probably, I think 50% or 60% of remittance of a country. So वो I think you are right. Basically the impact आएगा. It all depends कि वहाँ पर जो life है, how soon it get back to normal basically, because obviously we all know that a lot of our people over there are into lower tier jobs basically. So वहाँ पर activity जो होगी वो कितनी जल्दी revive कर पाएगी, I think it will all depends on that. So the March month was okay, and as per the numbers, but going forward things are may not be that lucrative, because for example जिस तरह वहाँ पे जो दुबई है, और वहाँ पे अगर एक टैक्सी ड्राइवर है वो टैक्सी चला ही नहीं रहा है पूरा महीना, तो वो कहाँ से घर पैसे भेजेगा basically. So remittance going to impact, but I think this also should give us something to really ponder, that why are we getting so much reliant on remittances basically. Pakistan का जो overall remittance पे reliance, if I take हमारी imports जो हैं, imports exports ka almost like I think around 50-55% are funded through the dollars we generate through exports basically. Baki sara remittances se ho raha hai baki. I think this is probably one of the lowest percentage in the entire region basically. You know, if you look at India, वहाँ पर exports जो हैं वो are like in 80 or 85% of your imports basically. So those countries, even Bangladesh में remittances बहुत ज़्यादा हैं, but even their share of exports is pretty high compared to the remittances. So I think we should look at this at point from this angle that our reliance on remittances is increasing a bit too much. We should go back to exports. Exports, अगर आप लोगों याद हो तो पाकिस्तान में exports were almost 16% of GDP in the 90s basically. We are down to 10%. So I think over the time हम exports को total ignore करते चले गए हैं. And the kind of population we have, population growth we have, if we don't create jobs and export-oriented jobs, we will be having these kind of problems every now and then basically because our growth is totally dependent on imports. So हम import को fund करने के लिए हमेशा से जो डॉलर सोचते रहे हैं वो unfortunately non-exports पर हमारी reliance रही है. I think हमें exports की तरफ दोबारा जाना होगा, exports को focus करना होगा, otherwise we'll have in this balance of payment crisis every now and then.
Yes, sir.
My name is 𝐕𝐢𝐝. I have a question from 𝐒𝐁 and 𝐷. This might be a bit premature, but do we have any idea in terms of potential claim that insurance industry might be facing due to this fallout? That's my question number one. And secondly, part two of this question is whether the insurance industry combined as a whole has the depth to absorb any level of claims. I'm talking about Pakistan only. Because the banks, naturally, they are scared in case they were to go for fresh LCs, whether, in case of any potential further problems, whether the insurance industry would be able to absorb such claims or not. That's my question number one. Taking advantage of 𝐒𝐁's presence, my other question is that Islamic banks and Islamic financial institutions are also reliant on takaful insurance industry for the insurance of their assets. Now, do we really know that they have the depth in case if these institutions were to file claims on takaful industry and then whether they are also able to absorb the claims or not? So these are two my questions.
So for the first part, in terms of the extent of losses the Pakistani insurance industry is expected to suffer from this event, so fortunately not much. So Pakistan has not had any direct losses. There are a few vessels that have been hit and where general average has been declared, GA has been declared. So that assessment will happen, then we'll find out to what extent there were Pakistani bound cargo in those ships. So any losses from there would be very minimal. So fortunately from this event, no, the industry has not had any major losses. We do not expect the industry to have any up till now. Yeah.
Takaful players are very limited in Pakistan, mainly because there is re-takaful, we call it, and re-takaful availability is limited. So I doubt very much that the takaful companies are writing this kind of a business at this stage. And if they do write, then it's mix and match, and they have to go through their Sharia advisor, and then they say that we are not able to get it. So will you allow accepting those covers? But re-takaful is not available, so they have a very limited capacity. So they don't accept this kind of a business. So you will not come across to that situation in terms of claims. If there is no policy, bigger policy available, then hardly you will be subjected to this. Thank you. Ji sir, Wazir sir.
Thank you very much. As far this question is for you, so we recently while we were ensuring we had our cargoes coming in. Uh, and the conditions that were given, I think you mentioned also those, but the exclusions were such that you don't have control over. So things like that, if the vessel had touched any port in UK or USA or Israel or there were other countries as well, over last 12 months, that would not be covered. So as an importer, we are not privy to that information because it's a CNF-based cargo, which is the supplier decides what kind of vessel to use. And already, while we all talk about oil being a necessary commodity, we tend to forget there are a lot of other raw materials that are extremely critical to keep the country going. Even the country finance managers of the country don't even realize till you mention to them. So with such conditions, obviously the customer might be willing to pay the premium, a higher premium. But if you have such exclusions, the whole purpose of having that cargo insured goes to waste. So has the industry done anything about it? I'm sure this is one question which many of your customers may have already asked. Thank
Yes,
you.
absolutely. Abid rightly pointed out. And this is very unfortunate because the initial reaction to this by the underwriters was slightly, I think, over the curve. I think it was very knee-jerk, right? Especially in terms of the exclusions that you mentioned. So initially, the initial list of exclusion that the industry received was, so while we could understand US interest or US and Israeli port calling, because IGRC had very clearly mentioned that they will target any asset which in any way or form has any relationship with the US or Israel. So while that could be understood, but the initial set of exclusion also contained if the vessel had caught on any European port as well. So yes, and I think the industry thought again that yes, it was a knee-jerk reaction. So whilst since it had come from the underwriters, it was given to our clients, but the industry went back to the reinsurers, the Lloyd's reinsurers, and said that this is not common sense. First of all, as you rightly mentioned, the client is in no way, when you're establishing the LC, you don't even know which vessel in most of the cases will be utilized. So whilst you can say that it should be a Pakistani flag carrier, but then saying that you need to have the history of the last 12 months, it was uncalled for. It was over there. But thankfully, I think after a few rounds of discussion, negotiation, those European port calls were then removed. But US, yeah, the US and Israel port still remains, and because the IGRC has actually specified that they will, hopefully now things will change, but before they will target anything, any vessel, and perhaps their intelligence is quite superior. Even now, Abin.
So, Abisa, rightly mentioned, I'm going to comment on this port touching of the ships, and then I will come back to you question as to we have the cover and we don't get the claim. And I'll give you my own experience. So on July 23, Israel was the first country to have given the sovereign guarantee of $8 billion of any port, any aircraft touching or passing through Israel. The liability or sovereign guarantee was $8 billion. And you're talking of July. Post-June, जब बमबारी की थी उन्होंने, this cover by the Israeli parliament continued till $8 billion. I yet have to find out about the claims, your questions, कि क्या होगा उसका, but you know that, I mean, you're talking of $20 billion by US and then doubling it, but Israel, tiny little country, giving a cover of $8 billion for their, ships or airspace. So ये जो बात आपने की ना, you have a cover and then you go to the fine print. So I should share with you in a lighter tone, not like this, but for insurance. So I bought a auto insurance policy, pay as you drive. One company offers that policy, pay as you drive. So my car, if I travel to 142 countries, then my car is mostly parked, right? So then I said that my car is not on the road. So I was attracted by this policy, pay as you drive. And the premium was low because it's based on per kilometer, not normal premium. ये असफर साहब के लिए interesting होगा. So unfortunately I had a claim. तो दे सेड कि सर वो तो पे एज यू ड्राइव तो अपनी जगह पर है, अब आपको जो है वो क्लेम लेने के लिए पूरे साल का प्रीमियम देना होगा. So we will convert your policy into a normal policy at the rate of 2.25%, which is our rate. And our underwriter is saying that खुदा साहब को कहो कि 2.25 से प्रीमियम पे कर दें फिर क्लेम दे दें. मैंने उसको चैलेंज किया and I said that tell me where is your policy and show me the details and your exclusions. अंडरराइटर को मैंने क्वेश्चन किया और उसको बुलाया. मैंने कहा मुझे क्लेम नहीं चाहिए, लेकिन आई वांट टू मेक श्योर दैट कि यू इफ यू वांट टू डू दिस देन यू हैव टू टेल अपफ्रंट योर क्लाइंट्स. मैंने तो जो है वो फरीद आलम साहब को भी कहा कि इंश्योरेंस करा लो यहाँ से. मैंने तो फारूक बंगाली को भी कहा कि इंश्योरेंस करा लो. अब मैं जो है वो ये 10 अपने दोस्तों को आपको मैंने कर दिया है रिकमेंड, तो कल को क्लेम होगा तो मेरी क्या इज्जत रह जाएगी कि खुदा साहब कहाँ इंश्योर करा दिया हमें. ये तो पूरा इंश्योरेंस. सो यू रियली नीड टू गो थ्रू द फाइन प्रिंट्स व्हेन यू रियली वांट टू गो थ्रू दिस. ये बात दिस इज वेरी गुड पॉइंट असफर साहब हैज मेंशन दैट कि वॉयज अगर स्टार्ट हो गया तो वो स्टार्ट हो गया, वो तो कवर है आपका. लेकिन नाउ यू आर गोइंग इनटू द न्यू regime, then it's a different ball point altogether. मेरी बीवी मुझसे कहती है कि जी बड़े इंश्योरेंस की 30 मार खाओ ना, देखो क्लेम लो इससे.
So Moin Saab is absolutely right. So you need to go through the fine print or you insure your assets with good companies.
Thank you, sir. Last question, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I'm Dr. Arif from IOBM. As we witnessed that the last month, Karachi port's transshipment volume surged 1400%. I mean, if there are overflows, why we have not been able to market Gwadar, which is geographically is much closer to the Gulf? Were the international underwriters were not interested, or we have been lax in marketing Gwadar for transshipment?
So I don't know whether you've answered this question. I think, and this was also raised previously, what advantage Pakistan will have because of the issues that Dubai is facing. Unfortunately, we don't have the infrastructure. I think to it the crux, I think Gwadar does not have the infrastructure to handle this sort of volume, number one, that it could have. And secondly, the second reason was, unfortunately, the coordinates that were declared in terms of the areas that constituted a war zone, Gwadar was very close to that. So it was not considered. Karachi port and Port Qasim was considered much safer, and also they have the infrastructure there as well. So there are two things, I think. We lack the infrastructure. Same is the case with aviation as well. I mean, our airports cannot handle more than, I think, 2-3 flights at a time. So whilst, otherwise Karachi could have been a very right location for flights which we needed to stop over and interchange. So I think we have not worked a lot on our infrastructure, and that's one of the reasons we are not able to take the advantage that perhaps one could have taken of what's now happening in the Middle East, especially Dubai.
So most of the tweets of President Trump comes early in the morning. And I watched Fox News program, and the 4 ladies were talking to each other. And one said that I love my president because he sends me his tweets first thing in the morning. And I really admire his tweets. So one tweet which I drafted this morning, and I'm going to share with you, maybe it comes through, you never know. We have the best ceasefire. Nobody's ever seen a ceasefire like this. Everyone said, wow. Honestly, it might be the best and greatest ceasefire in the world. Maybe ever. No precedent has ever done this. I just ended 9th war after India and Pakistan. I have a favorite field marshal and a prime minister. And honestly, after all the negotiations are over, I will reduce the Pakistan's tariff to 0. I deserve Nobel Peace Prize. No one deserves better than me. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Shoaib.
Over to Talib Saab.
Okay, I think we are out of time, and thank you to our elite panelists. I think it was a very constructive interaction and a lot of new knowledge. I think we are still on, I think since last night's development, we are on a more of a positive trajectory. And I think our political leadership can take advantage of it, whether it's at the salats, the dues that they owe us, or I think one positive which I think might not happen is, maybe more white-collar jobs can be created in UAE because Goras will not come back to UAE. They are scared. They think that it's not safe anymore. So I think there are also, whenever there are challenges, there are opportunities. So maybe one positive outlook can be that there might be more jobs available. I don't know about the blue collar, but for white collar workers. So let's hope for the best. I think let's hope that there's something positive is there for Pakistan. I think our leadership, they have played a very positive role in the last few days. And maybe we'll get some results or outcome from all this. Thank you very much for your participation. Thank you to the panelists. And I think over to you, Ali.
Thank you, Talib Saab, for being such a gracious host today. Before I invite our Vice President, Mr. Abid Wazir, for a formal vote of thanks, there's one little ceremony that needs to be taken care of, which is the distribution of plaques, for which I would invite our board members or the EC members one by one. So may I invite Tariq Saab to come forward to receive his plaque, and Mr. Zubair Haider, if you can do the honors. सामने आ जाएंगे. Thank you, Zubair Saab. May I now invite Asfar Saab to step forward, and may I request our treasurer, Mr. Junaidi, to please come forward and do the honors. Could I request Fahad Saab to please step forward? Could I invite Fahad Chinoy Saab to do the honors?
Thank you.
May I invite Talib Karim Saab as Buddha? And could I invite Intisar Saab?
Thank you, sir.
Now, I would like to invite our Vice President, Mr. Abid Wazir, to deliver the vote of thanks on behalf of Management Association of Pakistan.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you for being here. This is the first of the series of talks that we're going to be conducting on behalf of MAP. I would like to thank all the panelists here. I think we've had a very interactive, very good discussion. I hope you all benefited from it. And while the tea is going to be served, the panelists are still going to be here. A lot of you may still have few questions to ask. So feel free to have an interactive session over a cup of tea. And thank you once again to all of you for being here, and look forward to continuing our interactions in the coming days as well. Thank you very much. Thank you.